Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 24th of March, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at currencies, then stock markets, commodities, and last of all, some US tech stocks. And we see here how the dollar is just really struggling. Got to this 100 level. The 100 level on the dollar index is now becoming a resistance level. And in the last hour, we have just seen this quite sharp sell-off. We're only down very, very slightly at 99.77, but there was an attempt to rally this morning, which just hasn't sustained itself. So we are still very much bullish in the long term, just hanging on in the medium term. We haven't activated this downside target. That would be quite a bearish signal if we did. We are just hanging around. The dollar needs to bounce at these levels, and we need to be aware that this 99.50 level, if we go below that, spend a few hours below that, that would be a sign of a lower low, and the short-term bearishness would continue, taking us to these downside targets as low as 98.50. That's about 1.5% downside from here. So interestingly, the dollar is just finding resistance at the moment, but on the other side of the coin, it doesn't have a lot of work to do to get back into short-term bullish territory. So it would be an interesting one to watch. This level here, this on the medium-term cloud, 101.50, say, getting above that is ultimately where we need to get for the dollar to be out of the woods and back into clear positive territory. Looking at the euro, we see here a jump in the euro. That's the converse of that fall in the dollar, just almost finding support here as well, and very much on this resistance level. This 108 level for the euro, pretty critical, so keep an eye on that this morning. We do have a new upside target here, not yet activated. Of course, more upside targets than downside, so we are just seeing a lot of short-term bullishness playing into the euro. But this upside target here on the medium-term chart, not yet activated. Still, these downside targets hang over us. So it's too early to say that this is a long-term recovery. Japan, we see the yen. Dollar has been weakening, yen strengthening, pretty flat at the moment, holding on to the bullish situation in the medium term. And long term, the dollar yen hasn't actually got bullish yet. Sterling just off a bit this morning, but coming back again, just finding some support on the cloud here. We do have this upside target of 126.10, and that is activated, but the medium term targets like the euro not activated yet. So way too early to say whether this is a long term recovery in sterling as well. Looking at the euro sterling rate, euro has the upper hand this morning, sterling just falling away a little bit in the short-term chart. And on the Swiss franc, we're seeing sterling just falling away there as well. On the Aussie dollar, 164, the Aussie dollar has been weakening against sterling, so we're just seeing that showing through on this chart as well. Looking at stock markets, the S&P 500 index, still bearish below the count on the short term. We have got a downside target that is activated, but the long and medium term charts are still bullish. The short term will often turn bearish for a little while, but ultimately it's these medium and long term trends that count. It's way too soon to be calling these over or calling the top of the market. So at the moment we are bearish below the cloud on the Nasdaq and on the Dow Jones index and on the Russell 2000. So we're seeing this as a theme. For slight upside on the futures, we're seeing here the E-mini up 1/4% this morning. So we may just see the market open higher here. Not a lot of work to do to get through this level. On the E-mini, it's about 5377 is the level to break through there. On the FTSE 100, just very slightly down this morning, but bearish below the cloud in the short term. Bullish still looks, medium and long term still looks bullish. The FTSE 250 has actually held on to some bullishness and back with a lagging line. Really not through convincingly enough yet, probably finding resistance on the cloud. But the medium and long-term pictures here look great as well. And the DAX, similar picture. So we're seeing that across markets. Nikkei up about 1% this morning. That is overnight. That is really on the weaker yen. And looking at the Hang Seng, we're seeing here we're bullish on all three time frames still, as we are on Shanghai. So these markets unaffected. Shanghai up over 0.5%. The Sensex also up 0.5% and bullish on all three time frames. And the Australian market just getting back on the lagging line. Downside target not activated and lots of upside targets. So it looks like a recovery in train. Brent crude. Now, we've been quite bearish on Brent in the last few days, and that continues. The longer we hang around below this $51 level, the more we've got a trend change going on. And we can see here, price is coming right out of the cloud. It's got a lot of work to do to get back above the cloud. Got to get back about $56 now. That's a long way away, over 10% away. And we're seeing just the bearish picture here in the short term as well. And so crude oil looks like it is making a trend change. 5 downside targets here on the short-term chart. That's a real cluster of targets, and we're seeing the same on the WTI chart. Just multiple targets to the downside. Lots of selling thrusts. This is telling us that we are making a trend transition. So crude oil looking pretty bearish. If we look at US nat gas, just holding on to the $3, 304 level, but it's just holding in there. A pretty mixed picture, bearish in the medium term, bullish in the long term, bullish in the short term. If we look at some of the other commodities, copper still bullish on all 3 time frames. And if we take a look at gold, gold is bullish above the cloud, selling off a little bit, but holding on to the gains there. So gold is still looking pretty good, and this target of 1293 is the one to watch for. We've got targets in either direction at the moment. If we go any higher, we will deactivate that downside target. That would be a bullish sign in itself. Silver looking similar with 3 upside targets on the short-term chart. A very slight increase on the 10-year Treasury at 2.43%. And looking at Apple, still bullish above the cloud. Google is bearish below the cloud. Amazon is bearish below the cloud on the short term. Facebook holding on. So we're seeing a mixed picture. Microsoft holding on as well. Most tech is actually bullish above the cloud. That's it for today. Until Monday, have a great weekend. Happy charting. See you then.